a chance connection. The airport terminal buzzed with activity despite the late hour. Vikram Malhotra stared at the delayed notification flashing beside his flight number. 3 hours. He sighed, adjusting his glasses and scanning for an empty seat in the crowded waiting area. Mumbai's monsoon season had a way of disrupting even the most meticulously planned schedules. As a software engineer who thrived on precision and order, Vikram found these unexpected detours particularly frustrating. He finally spotted a vacant seat next to a young woman engrossed in a sketchbook. Her curly hair fell in waves around her face as she worked, completely absorbed in her drawing. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" he asked. She looked up, her dark eyes meeting his with a momentary flicker of surprise. "No, please." She shifted her bag to make room. Vikram settled beside her, opening his laptop to review code for his project. The woman returned to her sketching, but after a few minutes, she tilted her head toward his screen. "That looks complicated," she remarked. He glanced up. "It's just a new algorithm I'm developing for image recognition." He rarely discussed his work with strangers, but something about her genuine interest drew him out. "I'm Aditi," she said, offering her hand. "Raj," Vikram replied, using his middle name as he often did with strangers. It was a small defensive habit he'd developed over years of guarding his privacy. The rain intensified outside, drumming against the terminal windows. As their delay stretched from hours into the announcement of an overnight cancellation, their conversation deepened. Aditi described her work as an art curator for a gallery in Bangalore, her passion for discovering new artists, and her recent return from an exhibition in Paris. "And what about you, Raj? What drives you beyond algorithms?" The question caught him off guard. "Honestly, not much these days. Work consumes most of my life." "No family waiting for you somewhere?" Vikram laughed softly. "My parents are quite eager for that chapter to begin. They've been pushing for an arranged marriage for years." "And you're not interested?" "I've always believed some things shouldn't be arranged by others." He hesitated. "What about you?" Aditi's smile dimmed slightly. "My family has traditional expectations, too, but I've been focused on my career." As the night progressed, they found themselves in the airport cafe, sharing coffee and pieces of themselves they rarely revealed to others. There was freedom in talking to a stranger you'd never see again. When the announcement came that hotels were being arranged for stranded passengers, they lingered, reluctant to end their conversation. "It's strange," Aditi said as they walked toward the exit. "I feel like I've known you longer than just tonight." Under the shelter of the airport awning, watching the rain create silver sheets across the darkness, Vikram felt a rare impulse overtake his usual reserve. He leaned forward and kissed her. To his surprise, she kissed him back, her fingers lightly touching his face. When they parted, they both laughed softly, embarrassed and exhilarated. "Maybe in another life," she whispered. They parted without exchanging numbers or last names, just a perfect moment suspended in time, destined to remain a memory. 3 months later, Vikram sat across from his parents in their Delhi home, finally relenting to their wishes. "Fine," he said. "I'll agree to meet the bride you've chosen." His mother beamed. "Actually, her family is quite progressive. They've agreed to your condition of waiting until the wedding day. Her name is Aditi Sharma from Bangalore, a lovely girl from a good family." Vikram nodded absently, his thoughts drifting to a rainy night and a woman whose full name he would never know. Paths destined to cross Aditi Sharma stared at the pregnancy test in disbelief. 2 pink lines, unmistakable. Her hands trembled as she sank to the bathroom floor of her Bangalore apartment. "This can't be happening," she whispered to the empty room one night. One impulsive connection with a stranger named Raj during an airport delay. She had never done anything like that before. She was always the responsible one, the planner. But there had been something about him that broke through. Her usual caution, his thoughtful eyes behind those glasses, the way he listened as though her words mattered. Now, 6 weeks later, she was facing consequences she never anticipated. Her first instinct was to try to find him, but she had nothing but a first name, and the knowledge that he worked in software. No last name, no company, no contact information. In a country of over 1 billion people, finding one man named Raj was impossible. She considered her options carefully over the next several days. Termination was possible, but something inside her resisted. Despite the circumstances, a quiet certainty had taken root. She wanted this child. "You've lost your mind," her friend Priya said when Aditi confided in her. "How will you manage alone? What will your parents say?" Her parents. Aditi's stomach twisted at the thought. Sunita and Rajesh Sharma were loving but traditional. Her father had built his textile business through decades of hard work, and her mother had devoted herself to maintaining their family's respected position in their community. An unmarried daughter with a child would devastate them, as if summoned. By her thoughts, her mother called that evening. "We've found a match for you," Sunita announced, excitement evident in her voice. "A wonderful boy from a good Delhi family. His name is Vikram Malhotra, 32, a software engineer with his own company. Very successful." Aditi's mind raced. "Mother, Before you say no, just listen. His parents are friends of the Agarwals. He's agreed to meet you, but this is unusual. He prefers not to meet before the wedding day. Some modern notion about making the arrangement more authentic." Her mother sounded both perplexed and amused. "Normally, I wouldn't consider such a request, but his family is excellent, and the Agarwals vouch for his character completely." Aditi sat frozen, processing this unexpected development. A solution had appeared, wrapped in complication. If she married quickly, the child could be accepted without scandal. But marrying a complete stranger, binding herself to someone who had no knowledge of her pregnancy, seemed deeply unfair. "I need time to think," she finally responded. "Don't take too long, Beta. This is a good match. His parents are eager to proceed quickly, perhaps even next month." After hanging up, Aditi pressed her hands against her still flat stomach. Next month, she would be nearly 3 months pregnant. Still early enough that no one would notice immediately, but soon her condition would become obvious. Weeks passed. In a blur of medical appointments and phone calls with Vikram's family, she agreed to the match but negotiated for a slightly later date, claiming work commitments. Her future in-laws were understanding, and arrangements proceeded. She learned more about Vikram through these conversations: his education at IIT, his successful software company, his reputation for brilliance and integrity. Yet she could not bring herself to reveal her secret. Each time she considered telling them, fear silenced her. By her 3rd month, Aditi had begun wearing looser clothing. Morning sickness plagued her, though she blamed it on wedding stress when anyone noticed. She took a leave from the gallery, claiming she needed time to prepare for her new life in Delhi. One evening, alone in her apartment, Aditi stood before her mirror and looked at her changing body. The slight swell of her abdomen seemed to her like a ticking clock. "I'll tell him," she promised her unborn child. "After the wedding, when we're alone, I'll tell him everything. If he rejects us, we'll manage somehow." She thought again of the stranger from the airport, Raj, wondering where he was, what he would think if he knew. She remembered his gentle voice, his thoughtful responses to her questions. In her darkest moments, she consoled herself with the memory of that connection, proof that she was capable of recognizing something good, even if only for a night. As her wedding day approached, Aditi packed away her life in Bangalore. Her parents, thrilled about the match, remained oblivious to her condition. The traditional wedding lehenga had been carefully designed to conceal her growing bump, heavy embroidery and strategic draping serving as both decoration and disguise. The night before, leaving for Delhi, Aditi placed her hand on her stomach and made a silent promise. "Whatever happens, I will protect you. We will find our way through this." In Delhi, Vikram was methodically preparing for a bride he had never seen. His apartment was being reorganized to accommodate another person. His work schedule adjusted for the upcoming ceremony. Yet his mind frequently drifted to the woman from the airport, a memory he couldn't seem to release despite his impending marriage. "You're being ridiculous," he told himself. It was one night, months ago. Still, as he looked at the wedding invitation, on his desk, the formal announcement of his union with Aditi Sharma, he couldn't help wondering what might have happened if he had asked for her number that rainy night. The wedding revelation. The wedding venue glittered with thousands of lights, transforming the Delhi hotel garden into a scene from a fairy tale. Flowers cascaded from archways, their scent mixing with incense in the evening air. Guests in colorful finery mingled throughout the space, their voices creating a pleasant hum of excitement. Behind the scenes, Vikram adjusted the collar of his embroidered sherwani, feeling strangely calm despite the circumstances. He had expected anxiety on this day when he would finally meet the woman who would become his wife, but instead found himself occupied with memories of the airport stranger. It seemed disloyal somehow, thinking of another woman on his wedding day, yet he couldn't prevent his mind from wandering to her. "Are you ready?" his cousin Nikhil asked, entering the preparation room. "Everyone is waiting." Vikram nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." In her own preparation chamber, Aditi sat before a mirror while her mother adjusted her veil. The heavily embellished red lehenga successfully concealed her 4-month pregnancy, though she felt as if everyone must surely notice. Her secret seemed to pulse beneath her skin, visible to anyone who looked closely enough. "You make such a beautiful bride," Sunita said, tears in her eyes. Aditi forced a smile. "Thank you, Ma. Are you nervous about meeting him?" "Yes," she admitted, though not for the reasons her mother assumed. As the traditional Bharat procession began, with Vikram arriving on horseback accompanied by dancing relatives, Aditi remained sequestered, awaiting the moment when she would be led to the mandap for the ceremony. She had declined to view the procession from a window as many brides did, afraid that seeing him might weaken her resolve. The ceremony proceeded with all the usual elements: the exchange of garlands, the circling of the sacred fire, the recitation of vows. Throughout it all, Aditi kept her gaze lowered, the weight of her heavy veil providing an excuse to avoid looking directly at her groom. Vikram, too, seemed hesitant to look closely at his bride, as though giving her privacy in this arranged situation. It wasn't until they were pronounced husband and wife that Vikram finally turned to properly see the woman he had married. As tradition dictated, he carefully lifted the edge of her veil. Time seemed to stop. Those eyes. He knew those eyes. "You," he whispered, too softly for others to hear. Aditi's face paled beneath her makeup as recognition dawned. The man she had, known as Raj, stood before her, now revealed as Vikram, her husband. For a moment, joy flared within her. Fate had somehow returned her airport stranger to her, before reality crashed down. He didn't know about the baby, their baby. The celebration continued around them, neither able to speak freely amidst the rituals and congratulations. They moved through the reception like actors, performing their roles while internally reeling from the revelation. It wasn't until hours later, when they were finally alone in the honeymoon suite, that they could truly face each other. "You told me your name was Raj," Aditi said, breaking the tense silence. "I use my middle name sometimes with strangers." Vikram's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his turmoil. "And you You're the curator from Bangalore, Aditi. She nodded, her hands instinctively moving to her abdomen, a gesture that did not escape Vikram's notice. His expression shifted as understanding dawned. You're pregnant. It wasn't a question, but Aditi answered anyway. Yes. How far along? 4 months. The calculation was immediate. His eyes widened. That night at the airport, yes, she said again, softer this time. Vikram took a step back, his mind racing. You knew it was me when our families arranged this marriage? No! Aditi's response was emphatic. I only knew you as Raj, a software engineer I met once. I had no way to find you. When my parents told me about Vikram Malhotra, I had no idea. But you knew you were pregnant when you agreed to this marriage, he interrupted, his voice hardening. You didn't think that was important information to share? Tears filled Aditi's eyes. I was afraid. I didn't know what to do. By the time I found out, you were gone. Then when this arrangement came up, I thought... She broke off, unable to continue. You thought what? That you could just marry a stranger without telling him he was getting not just a wife, but a child too? My child? The betrayal in his voice cut through the room. I planned to tell you tonight, after the wedding. I knew it was wrong to keep it from you, but I was scared of what would happen if I told the truth. Vikram turned away, moving to the window to stare out at the city lights. The silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken questions and accusations. I never even knew your last name, he finally said, his voice quiet. I looked for you. You know, after that night, I checked social media for art curators named Aditi in Bangalore. She hadn't expected that. You looked for me? He turned back to face her. That night meant something to me. I've thought about you often, even while agreeing to this arranged marriage. A bitter laugh escaped him. And now here you are, my wife, carrying my child. I'm sorry, Aditi whispered. I should have found a way to tell you sooner. Vikram studied her face, searching for something. Why did you go through with this marriage? You could have declined the match. At first, it seemed like a solution. Then, as I learned more about you, about Vikram Malhotra, you seemed like a good man, someone who might eventually understand. She paused. And part of me hoped that our child deserved to have both parents, even if we were strangers. The honesty in her answer seemed to affect him. His shoulders slumped slightly as the initial shock began to subside. I need time to process this, he said finally. This is a lot. Aditi nodded, wiping away tears. I understand. As Vikram moved to the adjoining room, needing space, Aditi remained seated on the edge of the bed, her hand resting on her stomach. Their first night as husband and wife was nothing like either had imagined, yet beneath the shock and confusion, a thread of connection remained, a memory of rain against airport windows and conversations that had seemed meaningful even then. Truth and reconciliation. The morning after their wedding, Vikram awoke on the sofa in the suite's sitting room. He had spent most of the night staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying everything, from that first meeting at the airport to the shocking revelation after their wedding. In the bedroom, Aditi had barely slept either. She emerged cautiously, still in her nightclothes, her pregnancy more visible now without the concealing wedding attire. Good morning, she said tentatively. Vikram looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since their wedding. Beyond the shock and confusion, he saw the woman he had connected with months ago. The intelligent eyes, the quiet strength in her posture even now. We need to talk, he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Properly this time. Aditi nodded and sat down. Where would you like me to start? The beginning. After the airport. When did you find out about... He gestured vaguely toward her stomach. 6 weeks after we met, I was late, which never happens, so I took a test. She recounted the shock, her initial panic, and eventually her decision to continue the pregnancy, despite the circumstances. I tried to find you, but I had so little to go on. Just Raj, a software engineer who might or might not live in Delhi. What were you planning to do? Before our families arranged this match? Aditi's hands fidgeted in her lap. I was going to raise the baby alone. I had started making arrangements, looking into daycares near the gallery, adjusting my work schedule. Then my mother called about you, about Vikram. Vikram processed this information, trying to separate his feelings from the practical realities they now faced. And you decided to go through with an arranged marriage instead. It seemed like providence at first, she admitted. Then, as the wedding got closer, I realized how unfair it was to you. I planned to tell you everything after the ceremony, to give you the chance to end things if you wanted. An annulment, you mean? She nodded, not meeting his eyes. I would not have fought it. Vikram stood and walked to the window, needing movement to process his thoughts. The Delhi morning spread before him, the city coming to life beneath a hazy sky. I keep thinking about that night, he said finally. How easy it was to talk to you. How I felt I'd known you much longer. He turned back to face her. Was that real? Or am I romanticizing a memory? The question caught Aditi off guard. It was real for me, she said softly. I've never connected with someone so quickly. That's why... She hesitated. That's why what happened between us happened. It wasn't something I'd ever done before. Nor I, Vikram admitted. A fragile silence fell between them, less tense than before. What do you want to do now? Aditi finally asked. About us. About the baby. Vikram considered the question carefully. I don't know yet, but I do know one thing. That's my child too. I won't walk away from that responsibility. Relief flooded Aditi's features. Thank you. Don't thank me for doing what any decent person would do, he replied, but his tone was gentler than his words. We're in an impossible situation, but that doesn't mean we can't find a way forward. What are you suggesting? That we take some time, get to know each other, properly this time with real names and histories, see if what we felt that night was something that could grow. He paused. We're already married. Maybe we can try to make it real, for the baby's sake if nothing else. Aditi considered his proposal. And if it doesn't work? Then we'll figure that out too. But I think we owe it to ourselves, and to our child, to at least try. The honesty in his voice gave Aditi courage. I'd like that. Over the next weeks, they established a careful routine in Vikram's Delhi apartment. Separate bedrooms, shared, meals. They began the process of learning each other's histories, preferences, and habits. Vikram accompanied Aditi to her prenatal appointments, his face a study in wonder at the first ultrasound he witnessed. That's really our baby, he said afterward, his voice thick with emotion. Aditi nodded, watching his reaction carefully. It makes it more real, doesn't it? Gradually, the awkwardness between them began to dissolve. They discovered shared interests in obscure films and spicy street food. Vikram introduced Aditi to his favorite spots in Delhi, while she shared her knowledge of art and design, helping him redecorate his sterile apartment into something warmer. There were difficult moments, too. When they announced Aditi's pregnancy, to their families, the timing raised questions. They crafted a careful story about having met briefly before the arrangement, which satisfied most relatives but left Aditi's parents somewhat confused. You should have told us, her mother said privately. We wouldn't have judged you. I was scared, Aditi admitted. And then everything happened so fast with the arrangement. Sunita studied her daughter's face. Are you happy with him? Does he treat you well? Yes, Aditi answered, realizing as she spoke that it was true. He's been kinder than I had any right to expect. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the sunset, Vikram broached a subject they had been avoiding. I've been thinking about names, he said carefully, for the baby. Aditi turned to him, surprised. You have? He nodded. If it's a girl, what do you think of Kea? It means blossom or flower, something beautiful that grows even in unexpected places. The thoughtfulness of his suggestion brought tears to Aditi's eyes. It's perfect, she whispered. Vikram reached across the space between them, taking her hand in his. It was the first time he had initiated such contact since their wedding night. We're going to be okay, he said, and for the first time, Aditi truly believed it might be true. Building a future together. Summer heat settled over Delhi as Aditi entered her third trimester. The apartment she now shared with Vikram had transformed over the past months, no longer his space or her temporary residence, but truly theirs. A nursery had been prepared in sunny yellows and greens, gender-neutral, as they had decided to be surprised. Their relationship had evolved, too, moving beyond the careful politeness of strangers to something approaching genuine affection. They still maintained separate bedrooms, but the emotional distance between them had narrowed considerably. One sweltering afternoon, Aditi was arranging artwork in the nursery when a sharp pain caused her to gasp. Vikram, who had developed an almost uncanny awareness of her movements, appeared in the doorway immediately. What's wrong? Concern etched his features. Just a contraction, I think. Braxton Hicks. She tried to smile reassuringly, but another pain came, stronger this time. Vikram was already reaching for his phone. I'm calling Dr. Mehra. The next hours passed in a blur of hospital corridors and medical terminology. Preterm labor, the doctors explained, not uncommon but concerning at 32 weeks. As Aditi lay in the hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily around her, she watched Vikram pacing the room, making calls to family members and researching preterm birth outcomes on his phone. Vikram, she said softly, come sit. He stopped, his pacing, and moved to her side, taking the chair beside the bed. The doctors say they can stop the labor. Give the baby more time. I know. She reached for his hand. We're going to be okay. He looked down at their intertwined fingers, then back to her face. When I saw you in pain, I realized something. What? How much I've come to care for you. Not just as the mother of my child, but as... He hesitated. As my wife. My partner. The words hung between them, significant and transformative. I've been thinking about that night at the airport, he continued. How it felt like finding something I didn't know I was looking for. I think maybe that's what happened again these past months with you. Aditi's eyes filled with tears. I've felt it too, but I've been afraid to trust it. Afraid you were just making the best of a difficult situation. No. His voice was firm. What I feel for you is real. It's grown day by day, through morning sickness and mood swings, through ultrasound appointments and nursery painting disasters. He smiled at the memory of their failed attempt at creating a cloud mural. I think I might be falling in love with you, Aditi. The real you, not just the memory from that night. Before she could respond, the baby kicked hard enough for both of them to feel it through her hospital gown. They laughed, the tension broken. I think someone's weighing in on the conversation, Aditi said, smiling through her tears. The medications worked, and the preterm labor was halted. When they returned home, something had shifted between them. The invisible barriers they had maintained began to dissolve. One evening, as they sat reviewing pediatrician's credentials, Vikram looked up to find Aditi watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. What is it? He asked. I was just thinking about how differently this all could have gone. If you had been angry or resentful, if I had been more afraid. She placed her hand over his. Thank you for choosing to build something with me, even when you had every reason not to. It wasn't entirely selfless, he admitted. I think part of me recognized, even on our wedding night, that fate had given me a second chance with the woman from the airport. Later that night, when Aditi appeared in the doorway of his bedroom, Vikram simply moved over to make space for her. They lay together, her head on his shoulder, his hand resting protectively over their child. "Do you believe in destiny?" she asked softly. "I used to think it was just a concept people invented to make sense of coincidence," he replied. "But now I'm not so sure." 7 weeks later, after a labor that tested both their strength, Kea Malhotra entered the world with a powerful cry and a full head of dark hair. "She's perfect," Vikram whispered, cradling his daughter with awestruck gentleness. Aditi watched, them together, her heart so full it seemed impossible to contain. From a chance meeting in an airport to this moment, a family created through circumstances so unlikely they seemed designed by something greater than chance. When they brought Kea home, the apartment that had once been just Vikram's, then carefully divided between them, was now unmistakably a family home. Their journey from strangers to parents had transformed not just their living space, but themselves. 1 year later, on Kea's first birthday, their families gathered to celebrate. As Vikram helped his daughter blow out her single candle, Aditi captured the moment on camera, preserving the joy on both their faces. Later, after the guests had gone and Kea was asleep in her crib, they stood together on the balcony where they had first begun to build their tentative trust. "Happy anniversary," Vikram said, handing Aditi a small wrapped package. She looked confused. "Our wedding anniversary was last month." "Not that one," he smiled. "It's been exactly 2 years since a rainstorm delayed my flight and I sat next to a beautiful artist in an airport terminal." Aditi's eyes widened as she unwrapped the gift, a delicate silver pendant in the shape of an airplane. "To remind us that sometimes the delays in life are actually sending us exactly where we need to go," he explained. She kissed him then, with all the certainty that had been missing on their wedding night. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. "Who would have thought," she whispered, "that arranging to marry a stranger would lead me right back to you?" Vikram's answer was simple. Maybe we were never truly strangers, just two people who took a while to find our way home. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully, living proof that sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most beautiful stories.